just commented, please comment and let us know that you are here. Hopefully, our guests, once they log in, will let us know who's here and kind of engage with us. Everybody, welcome to the 3+1 live cast with your amazing hostess, Tracy Bonner.
What's
Tracy,
up?
how are you doing?
I am well. How's everybody doing?
Good.
And so we have a really awesome show tonight. So we are introducing to everybody our official political commentator, the one and only Jamel Riggins. Jamel, how you doing, boo?
I'm good. How is everybody? Nice to meet you all.
It has been a very busy week in the news. We have a lot that we're going to talk about, and we're going to go through some pretty interesting stuff. And before we go through any of that, we are really excited to bring in this week's special guest, Anaji.
Yes.
Ruth, welcome to the 3+1 live cast. Anaji, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Tracy, I'm going to let you introduce Anaji to our friends out there.
Onaji is a really good friend of mine. I met Onaji through some fellow actors. He is a peer of mine, and he's also a client of mine. He comes to my taping service, and I met him one day, and he brought his comic books. He's a Black comic writer, and I was just in awe of the beauty of these characters and how well written it was. And so I present to you my good friend Onaji.
Anaji, you talked about him being a client. I mean, Tracy said he's a client. And so Anaji, according to your Instagram profile, you tell us that you are a self-described blurred.
Yes.
What does it mean to be a blurred?
Yes. A blurred is basically a Black nerd. It's like our own little collective community that we call ourselves because, for the most part, nerds tend to be this, the social point of being, I hate to say it, but like white, geeky, guys, and who are into comics and sci-fi. But, we're Black and we love sci-fi and comics as well.
Right.
So we kind of created our own little collective of being like blurs.
And the industry would like to tell you that we don't exist, that we don't like comics, that we don't like superheroes, that we don't like sci-fi. So this is why this is so exciting to have you on.
It really is kind of prolific, right? Because you had a whole entire comic book push where you saw no people of color being represented at all. I have been a lifelong comic book reader. I started reading comic books and really collecting them, if you can call it. I bought them. I won't say collecting because I never got serious about keeping them. But I will say I started buying comics at age 10, and I've been buying ever since. I started with Avengers and X-Men, and then just started buying tons and tons and spending quite a bit of money. But to see the representation of people of color on the screen took a lot longer than being 10. I really didn't see that. You really didn't see that until Black Panther. And that's kind of sad.
Yeah. I mean, they'll give us one or two. But
very few.
More than one. It's always that narrative of pushing one.
What did you think of the adaptation of Watchmen with?
I'm going to be honest with you. I love that series. The series blew the movie out the water. When I tell you that series was phenomenal, like that was a dope series. It was so well written. How they educated people. Like people did not know about the Tulsa bombing.
The race riot. Can you turn up your mic just maybe on your computer a little bit, your volume just a little.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yep. And so, actually, The Watchmen was voted in the top 100 books of all time by Time of the century in Time magazine, leading up to the best books of 1900 up to 2000. Did you watch? And so you like the actual series better than the actual HBO program? Yes. Do you think that the HBO program needs a second season? And that's open to the whole panel.
Well, it deserves a second season, but it's one of them things, like I was talking to a friend about this earlier. I was like, it's one of them things where you want it, but would they be able to
do the same
deliver like they did the first season?
Right.
Because, I mean, they delivered that first season.
They really did.
They told the story, and they gave you all the relevant background. They did all the character building, and definitely for all of our live friends out there who are watching, please comment as well and let us know if you've seen the Watchmen series on HBO, and if you think that they deserve to have a second season. Personally, I want them to leave well enough alone. It was a great show. Regina King was amazing. I want to say it's Lindendorf, Jamel. I think that's the actual executive producer who brought the show. He did a lot of work on Lost. He did work on the HBO series The Leftovers. Tracy, he doesn't have a good track record of second seasons and third seasons. He does adaptations of works. And then, because The Leftovers was based on a book, and a well done book, and then you try to take source material and stretch it out, and you end up with a product that's subpar, and it ruins the quality to me of the first season in retrospect. Further proof of this, and HBO as a whole bumbles it. They bumbled the ending of Game of Thrones drastically.
Oh my God!
They ruined a whole entire movement in America with one bad finale. So.
You know what? First of all, you people who don't know the actual author, I think they were as true to who the author is as could be without his support, because he had not written for the show in years. And he really said to the quote was, if you think this is going to end well, they made a joke out of it. If you think it's going to end well, you haven't been watching. So
it's not what happened at the end. It's not the ending that I didn't agree with. It is the way the ending unfolded. It was rushed. It wasn't true to character development. That I can understand what happened and why it had to happen, but it was too rushed. And the rushed nature of it completely ruined the whole series for the majority of fans.
But I was saying it was doomed anyway because he had not supported them in the writing of that. The first two series, you could take the two seasons, you could take the book and literally go page to. I hate to pull the book I have off the shelf over there, but you could literally go page to page and watch that series. But
well, definitely, you can pull it out. Show the world, George R.R. Martin. Hello, Charles. Welcome. Charles will be joining us very soon on one of these lives.
Yeah, I loved the Watchmen, and to take it back, Zach, I remember the first night that it premiered, and my actual Facebook post was, they're going to take this off the air because it was too real. You know what I mean?
Too real for them.
It was too real. I was like, they're going to take this off the air. It's going to be gone. So
Zach would
the sad part about it, I felt that way after that first season. They was like, yeah, this is not going to come back. But it was good while it lasted.
It was
fingers across.
Wait. Why have we counted this show out? Zach, you would get on to me all the time about you need to watch the show. And I did end up, I didn't watch the whole series, but I watched a couple of episodes and it was very well written, very well performed. Let's give them a chance. Let's don't give them the sophomore curse. No,
the show done came to an end. It's like correct. The show's over.
Terrible because
ain't no more watching.
I don't think so. I think there's an opportunity here because it starred a Black woman. It's great to be Black right now.
So you have to Watchmen.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, how about they do this? How about they go a different route the next season where it's still in that universe and it's from a different line.
Right. And Charles added in that Charles, if if you can Google for us, just let us know. I think it's Lindendorf is the showrunner of the show, and he did say that he didn't want to do a second season. And to be honest with you, Tracy, Regina King did this as a favor to him, and he made a concession. What he said was he never works with the same lead more than once. And so he chose to, he needed Regina for the role. And when she read that first script, she was hooked. She felt that it was something that needed to be told, a story that really would resonate with people. And I think they both feel like this is it. They have other things they want to pursue and that they want to do. And now
Damon Lindelof?
Yeah.
Lindelof. That's it.
And Najee, tell us about the comic universe that you have created as a Black comic book writer and why our viewers on this live cast need to check you out?
Oh yeah, let me go ahead and introduce. So, like, I created my own publishing company, Obsolete Studios, but then I got up with two other individuals like-minded like myself, two other Black creators and Black writers, and his name is Lonzo Starr, and he created Concrete Comics. So he, being a creator, he was like, "How about you come under me as a umbrella? You can still own the rights to your property and everything." And I was like, "Well, dope." I was like, "I don't want to, do this alone because this is a lot of work." Wow. So it's three of us originally came together, three Black creators. And my character is Odina, a Black female superhero. She's like Supergirl, except, well, she's Black. I mean, and so their characters, Acolyte and Absolver, are all in this universe. So we each have our own different characters, but we came together and was like, this is what the type of universe we're going to create. Absolver is more of a supernatural, so he's on that side of the world or whatever. And, Acolyte's more of a cosmic, but he's still on Earth. But Odina is more of a human mutant type super. So how in Marvel, how they each have their own sections that they, the Avengers deal with what they deal with, the X-Men deal with what they deal with, and then you got the Fantastic Four dealing with what they deal with. Well, that's how you create the universe. It doesn't all have to be like the same story, like lined up. Each can have their own separate like entity to themselves. And so with me coming in and presenting my, human, my Black characters and what they're dealing with being mutants and being, well, Black, duh. So all the above, that's a story within itself, because to be told, the X-Men were created based off civil rights movement.
They sure were.
So imagine a world where they're Black and superpowered. And a Black superpower woman who's not looked at as superpower, but just looked at as a Black woman.
Black women.
Anyway, yeah.
Well, look, we know that, but the world is just now catching wind of that.
Yeah.
Like, come on, Harriet Tubman free like how many slaves?
Okay.
They say we're saving this country from itself. So
thank you.
What Black women are. Just a round of applause, all of our and hope that we continue to have you take the forefront and lead us from the seat of a well-deserved VP and then the seat of a well-deserved Supreme Court justice. We're going to talk about our Supreme Court justices tonight. I want to know, Anaji, who were some of your critical comic influences that really led you to be currently the type of creator that you are today?
Oh yeah, Stan Lee is definitely one of them. Him being one of the main forces when creating Marvel. He created this whole world. I'm big on like creators. When you can sit there and create one character and then just expand out and create a whole world to itself, that's pretty dope to me. And I look at like other people like Dwayne McDuffie, who's rest in peace, he created Milestone Comics. And he was the first Black creator of like his own comic book company. See, a lot of people don't know that, but what I love about this brother is not only did he create his own comic book company,
Static,
but his character
was one of his characters, right?
Oh, Icon, Static and Icon, and Static is definitely one of the main ones. And it had its own television show. But this brother also wrote for DC Comics as well, like wrote comics, and he wrote TV shows as well. So,
did he create Black Lightning?
No.
Black Lightning, and just for the record, everybody, just giving a shout out to Tracy, to my amazing co-host. Tracy had a role on Black. Were you in episode 1? I know. Right. Tracy was on Black Lightning, featured on this program, and had a recurring role on the program. So Black Lightning was the first prominent Black DC superhero in the 70s, and he was a teacher fighting, with kids. He was a great character, and DC could have done a lot more with him. But I'm thankful to see that the character's been surged or brought back to the forefront, through the CW. And that, thank you for that. So one thing before we dive into the topics, and again, for all of our live viewers, please join us. I have taken a lot of hits this last week on Facebook. Man, what have I taken a lot of hits about?
Has it been
comic book?
Has it been Keisha Lance?
No, well, I got hit about Keisha. That's coming up, but I think a lot of hits. A lot of people came out attacking Beyonce Knowles Carter, saying that they did not want to see her play the role of Storm in any Marvel adaptations. They even went as far as to create a petition against the one and the only Queen Bee. So I want to open the floor to get your opinion.
What time is it, girl? What time is it?
Tell me your thoughts, and then hear from these amazing queens. And Charles wanted both queens to know that he salutes you fully. He's one of our viewers. He said salutes you fully. So what are your thoughts on Beyonce Knowles Carter playing the one and the only Aurora Monroe?
Am I going first?
Yeah, you're the expert on the panel.
Oh, okay.
You are the expert.
Here's the thing. I love Beyonce. I think she is a queen in her own right. However, for that role, that I don't think it would cut it for that, because she's an amazing performer, entertainer, all that. But for that role, no. I think for that role, you need someone seasoned, someone who's going to be able to pull you in without giving too much. Because the character Storm, and they never quite got this right when it comes to Storm.
Exactly.
Storm is regal. Like, she's a queen goddess, like the X-Men's, like she's the main chick, Yeah, Tracy.
Yeah.
Tracy's like, but yeah, so you got to have that presence of like just being like that true Black queen, and not to say like Beyonce isn't. She's just not Storm.
Here's the thing. Let me
tell it.
That role doesn't necessarily need a seasoned actor. It needs an actor with chops. That's number one. When I saw Halle Berry play it, I was very disappointed because
I see you on your early.
Not only did she didn't look like what I envisioned an African queen, because Storm is from Africa. So I just didn't see her embody African. I thought they should have chosen Nona Gay for that role. Marvin Gaye's daughter. At the time, she had just done The Matrix, and she has these high cheekbones, this beautiful skin, and she would wear this beautiful ponytail, and she can act. The girl can go. And so I was like, that is more the angle. You just have to have the chops to be able to pull this off. Like you said, you got to be able to draw your audience in. And every time Beyonce acts, it doesn't feel real. It feels like she's putting on something. She's pretending. She's having to pull this character out from behind herself, and it just doesn't seem honest. It doesn't. It just seems hard. It looks like she's working to act.
It's another way I looked at it too. Like, okay, so Black Panther, you got to get an actress who's going to be able to stand next to all these people in Wakanda.
Right.
Like, not only look as good as them, but also like pull them chops. You got Lupita and Chadwick Boseman standing there, and even if they're like, they just have this aura about them where they're just acting out like T'Challa and Nakia. So you got to have a Storm that's going to be like showing up and being like, I'm Storm.
And the majority of those actors are trained. Let's not. They are trained from
Angela Bassett,
Yale Rep, conservatory acting school. Like, these people.
Look, I was trying to be nice and say seasoned. I wasn't trying to say it.
I was going to keep it even more simple than that. I was just going to say believable, and just not believable to me. I saw her in what was the little shack. I can't remember. Austin Powers.
That was in the beginning of her career as an actress. She was just starting. She had a very small role. She has a right to grow as a performer. Mm-hmm. Beyonce Knowles Carter did a quality job in Dreamgirls. That's a hard role.
That is a singing film. And by the way, she got outdone by
Jennifer.
who had never done acting.
Well,
There's
here's the
a
thing. Go
great
back and watch
anointing
it
on
again.
Jennifer's life.
I think she
And
actually,
that
I gotta
anointing
give Beyonce
shone
that.
through.
Come on, Tracy. Come on, Tracy. Do
It
not.
was an anointing over her.
All I'm saying is yes, actors do need the opportunities to grow when they're actors.
Mhm.
She's
I
a
would, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna be honest.
Awesome performer.
I would, you know, and Tanya said Tanya said that everyone has a lane, including Beyonce, and I'm assuming, Tanya, that you're trying to tell us that acting is in her lane. And Charles said you guys should cut her a little bit of slack about Goldmember because it was her first role. But I did want to make sure that we explored that in the interview section before we go into the topics at hand. And we do have a lot of topics tonight to explore. Tracy, do you have any questions for our special guest? And Jamel, any questions for our special guest?
Yeah, we asked you what your who your motivation, you know, your some of your favorite writers were, but what else motivates you, Onaji the writer, outside of maybe, you know, a Stan Lee? Where do you draw from to get your characters and your storylines to come to life?
Culture and my family. Like when I tell you, especially my family, like I have 8 nieces, so that's a lot of that's a lot of them. So imagine like watching them, like, and my nieces came in town this past weekend, and one of them even said to me, "That was like, can you imagine you being with your grown nieces now, and you done changed all our diapers?" And I was like, "Yeah, I had just had a moment when I was thinking about it. Thanks a lot. You made me feel old." But just all 8 of them, like watching them grow to be women, and then like I think the youngest one right now is 6 years old, and then you got my mother and my sisters. So you know, I come from a very big matriarchal family, so those women are not usually represented in media and film and TV. And also my sisters in the world, they are not seen on movies and TVs and sci-fi shows. So I was like, well, I guess I need to help them, put them in a book or something to show that that's where they belong. Because whoever, like I literally looked at a Marvel book one day and saw on one of the promo pages a team like the A-Force, which is like their all-female group.
Yeah.
And it was just basically all and it's just all the white women on the page. I was like, you mean tell me, other than using Storm as a token,
America,
like, y'all have no other woman of
color? You know, America's Hispanic, but still.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was like, it's time to change that narrative. It's time to put our people in these books, especially our sisters who actually do kick-ass things. So.
All the time.
Proper representation is what I've been preaching all for the past couple of weeks. We need to be able to see ourselves wherever we go and whatever room we walk in. You know, even at theater auditions, I'll go into the audition and my director will be white, the casting director will be white, the costume set, lighting designers are white, but you're doing a Black show. Where is the proper representation in that? So
exactly.
I appreciate you doing that, because as a 6-year-old niece has someone to look up to aspire to be like, you know.
Guess what? She showed her my book to her show and tell class. Yeah.
Hey.
I was like, see, it's like stuff
you're
like
a real
that.
superstar now.
Yeah.
You know, and then like this other guy said, this reviewer for comics said his daughter, his adopted daughter, is Black, and he said that she saw the book and was like, ooh, because he got the book, and she was like, he said something about like she wanted to dress as her for Halloween. I was like, that's what I'm doing it for. Like, our little sisters and nieces need this. Like, they need to know that they can be seen anywhere. Even our little brothers, our men, we need to be seen. All of us, Black people, period. We need to be seen across the board. Period.
Was it hard? Okay, Jamel.
Oh no, I was gonna say a lot of the comics that we talked about had like these underlying themes, right? Like Watchmen. I remember when Watchmen first came out, and you had people who were upset about it. They were like, "What are they doing? They all this stuff," you know. And then, of course, you had the clapback from the people who were actually true readers of the comics. Like, if you haven't been reading Watchmen, you didn't know that all of these themes were there anyway. So I guess my question would be around how do you write, or how do you keep a balance in your writing so that even you know how when we say all Black movies have a message and you got to learn something at the end, like how do you balance your message or your themes with great storytelling?
Sometimes the theme is already there. Let's be clear. For us, for Black people, it's already there. We just have to hammer it out. And for most of the part, for most of the time, it's usually like having to do with like social issues and, you know, just all that type of stuff. So it's already there. You just have to find ways of making it more relatable to the story, but not like overdoing it, but kind of spoon feeding people. So it's already there. Like, we're storytellers. We're natural storytellers. So
natural.
Well, I you know, the last question that I have, and I was thinking about this as you were talking, and the question is, how are you able to fund the work that you do? Because comic creation is an extremely expensive process, and printing anything is an extremely expensive process. How are you able to fund that?
Out of pocket. For the most part, most of my money comes from out of pocket. I work a full-time job. So not only do we, whatever funds we get from the actual sales, it'll go towards promotion and other stuff like that. But for the most part, when it comes to like production of my book, I'll come out of pocket. Have you done any kind of like crowdfunding to bring in revenue to help you continue the creation of your work? Yeah, we did a Kickstarter last year, and the Kickstarter was successful. We went above and beyond. So we're going to do one again this year for the issue 2s. So we're actually getting ready to like launch that real soon. So
don't wait too long. Now is the time. Time to be Black right now. Everybody.
Black is the new black.
Black is the new black. Black, you know, I even have on my Juneteenth shirt.
Hey, look, I got my shirt on.
Negro. So I think that's a good time, guys, to somewhat transition into the news of the week. You know, on 3+1 podcast, we try to give an intergenerational spin on the different things happening in the world that we live in. We go from politics to entertainment to the world of social media. And we're going to jump right into what's happening and impacting us right here, hardcore, in the city of Atlanta. We have in the city of Atlanta been protesting, along with the rest of the world, the brutal killing of George Floyd, police injustice and brutality, as well as demanding an end to systemic racism. However, on last Friday, the actual call of the protest came right here knocking on our door in our very own city, where 2 police officers killed Rayshard Brooks in a Wendy's parking lot. So I'm going to use that kind of as our frame. I'm hearing like something odd. I don't. Is somebody or none of you are on live yourselves, right? No. Okay.
There is some feedback.
Somebody's
typing. Yeah. You can't type. We're gonna hear that now. Okay. Yeah, it's not type something. Anyway, so somebody has a little background.
I'll get my.
If you're doing some moving, or maybe there's a weird connection, but sounds like typing.
Or feedback from your voice.
We're being infiltrated.
You know, I think this is a pretty secure line, but we'll continue on. And so I want to use it as a framework to now let you guys jump in and kind of share your opinion.
I guess I'll start. The Rayshard Brooks situation is one of the messy cases, if you will. And messy, not meaning anything around the idea that he did not deserve to be here, or he somehow brought it on himself. I don't believe that at all. But sometimes when we get in our judgment zones, we want things to be clean and neat and pretty when it comes to our interactions with the police. For example, the Ahmaud Arbery situation. Like, you can clearly see that, and I call him a child because he was, you know, in his early 20s, but you can clearly see that that young man had done nothing at all wrong except for exist. And here you have Rayshard, for whatever reason. Again, I don't care anything about him falling asleep in a car. I care nothing about that. I don't care anything about him having a drink or two or three before he was encountered by the police. I believe that the entire interaction with the police was all wrong. And so people see like the tussle that they had with him as being problematic. I'm thinking about the entire conversation. It almost seemed like they were toying with him. It seemed like in a moment, you know, one of my friends, I believe it was Tanya, said it was almost like they were trying to trip him up in the moment by continuing to ask him and the same thing over and over again. If indeed your point as a police officer was to secure the situation, right? That's what you're supposed to do, secure the situation. The situation was secured once he stepped out of the car. He surrendered all things about himself. He surrendered knowledge of himself. He surrendered even things almost appealing to say, I'm a human. I had, you know, judge me on humanity's sake. My child's birthday is coming up. I was here told the whole story about trying to get food for his wife. Look at me, I'm human. Look at me, I'm human. And they still did not treat him with dignity and respect. They toyed with him in that moment. And yes, they tussled, but once he was gone and not a threat to you anymore, I really feel like that is the moment where it became clear that they didn't mean him any good and they meant to harm him.
I guess, can y'all hear me?
We hear you, yes.
Okay, good. I guess my question is, why kill him as he's running away? I'm just baffled at the numbers of white men in particular that I've seen just here recently. A white man killed 2 people, molested some kids, and was butt naked and beat a police officer down, and he still lived. I just wonder, why is it that when Black men, even when they're fleeing, are still the threat? That is just the only question that really comes to mind here. And how do we justify it?
It's not justifiable. You can't justify it. But I did, and I don't know if you guys, you know, it was months ago. I want to say it was around Christmas that there was a special on 2020 about implicit bias in police officers and the training that police officers go through. And they were doing a really intense study. And they found that both white and Black police officers perceive threats from African Americans or Black men, particularly more so than anybody else, when there was no threat there. Nightline ran this again last week, so I caught it again, the little clip of the segment. And so what I'm going to do is I'll post in the comments after the show where you can go to that clip and watch it on ABC Go or ABC Now, whatever it's called. But Tracy, that's, I think, sadly to say, the way that our society has conditioned most of us to think and feel and respond. And it's from
the media, the ongoing,
you know, nonstop. And it's heartbreaking and it's sad. And that's what it means to dismantle systemic racism. And that's what we're in a fight to do and what we are, you know, battling to do. So hopefully Najee's going to come back. I think he logged out. Hopefully he'll log back in and come back to us. But that's exactly what it means. He's coming back. And that's exactly, you know, what it means.
Okay.
I just feel like, and I was being funny when I was saying the media, Chris Rock used to have this comedy bit about it's the media. It really is. In the documentary, The 13, You hear people always talk about the crime bill that was created or signed by all of these Democrats, Republicans. But I have to remind people that at the time, Black people were supporting the crime bill. So when you even talk about Bill Clinton, people are like Bill Clinton and the crime bill, Joe Biden pushing it through and all this here. And I always have to say, who was Bill Clinton's right-hand man? Most people can't tell you, but I can. It was Vernon, who was Black. And the Black clergy, a lot of Black people had bought into the hype that the media presented. And I was in 5th grade during the crack epidemic. And I can tell you that every single night, inundated with visuals around the delinquent Black folk inner city who are addicted to drugs. We got to protect our communities. We all bought it. We all bought it.
But they don't do the same with the opioid and the meth.
They have received way more.
The narrative is different. The opioid crisis is a different narrative than what the crack epidemic was.
But see, that's even in the wording.
It was
opioid crisis as opposed to epidemic.
I just say that there was the crime was ravaging a lot of places. And even, I'm gonna tell you, I even reflected back because I have done a lot of really deep thinking of just my own. I won't say, in my brain, deep thinking around defunding the police and the value that policing has in just my life and community. My home was broken into twice here in Atlanta at a time when policing was not as prevalent in the city. And since policing has increased in the city, I have to say that I feel significantly safer in my neighborhood. And I live in
the job they were hired to do.
I live in a Black neighborhood. And so I'm not afraid to admit that I believe that policing has a purpose. And when it is done well, it adds a value to our society. Okay. So I am not for, really defunding anything. I am for increasing and reallocating to lead to better reforms. And I think that all of this, everything that's happening now is going to ultimately lead us into a much better, more progressive space if the right people ascend to office. Yes. And Lizzie makes a very good point here in that, yep, you're right. It is $1 billion industry. And then Zach Thomas makes a really great point that's bigger than the media. I'm going to ask Zach to maybe elaborate a little bit more on that. But what do you guys think about the whole defund the police movement and where policing needs to go in the future?
I think we need to be clear about what defunding means. A lot of people hear that word and they think we're completely getting rid of police departments altogether. No, that's not what that means. It means what you just said, the reallocation of government funds. And a lot of people don't know that. And so I think if we change the word, because nobody says anything when we defund education. Mm-hmm. And when we defund and write executive orders, but see, we don't call it defunding healthcare. We don't call it defunding education. So we probably need to come up with a different way to explain.
Yeah, and I think that, and even though I do believe that there's a significant portion of what police do now, they probably don't need to do anymore. They're just not professionally prepared to encounter certain situations. Yeah. I do feel like it's problematic. The word defund is a bit problematic, and I know, and I hear people say, no, you need to know what it means. I do, but I also recognize in a very realistic way that the American electorate can be simplistic. That's why 3-syllable chants work for Trump, right? All of the chants he has 3 syllables long. Lock her up, right? Drain the swamp. Very simplistic, that will stick with you. And so that is my only thing about, and I know people saying, Jamel, that's the political spin, but the political spin moves voting behaviors. So I'm with you 100%. I want us to think about the word defund. And if we're going to stick with it, we got to make sure that everybody understands exactly what it means.
But how do you make sure people understand what it means when most of those people who don't understand what it means, they're not trying to hear that? Like these are certain type of individuals where they're stuck in their ways. Because even like, it's funny y'all say that, because I even had this conversation with someone about what it meant to defund the police. And I explained to them what that means. And even though that person was a little bit more tolerant, you have individuals who are not as tolerant. So how do we spoon feed them or baby them?
You know, I do believe that you can legislate behavior, but you cannot legislate morality. So I can create legislation that will, make the environment safer for my people, right? Because I can control cop behaviors. There are some people whose minds you'll never be able to penetrate those barriers. You try, right? And we've all known people for years who have thought and done the same thing that they have always done. So I do believe in legislating behaviors with the very realistic notion that people may not change their minds, but they'll stop from doing it if the punishment is right.
Exactly. And we also need to encourage a lot of these defunding lawmakers to put these police officers, hold them to task. This young man that just killed Rayshard, is that his name? Please, Rayshard.
Yeah, Rayshard. Mm-hmm.
He had multiple incidences written up about him. And the issue is the APD, they don't have, if you have a certain amount of incidents, you lose your badge. You can no longer be a police officer. After 2 or 3 offenses, when we're on our jobs, we get fired.
Yeah. We had 3 strikes and you're out. What's wrong with that? You 3 strikes for us. Why y'all can't get 3 strikes?
Chauvin had 18 offenses, complaints before the George Floyd situation. These people aren't being trained properly and they're not being held accountable properly.
Correct.
And so that's the major issue.
But that's why the funding is needed. So one, when you talk about defunding the police, there is no one answer. That's why you have right now House Democrats giving you a plan, Cory Booker presenting a plan with the Senate. You have Tim, what's your homeboy's name?
He's not my homeboy, but Tim.
You have
not my homeboy. I'm from Albany, Georgia.
Giving a plan. Everybody is giving. Everywhere you look, you're going to see a different definition of what it means to defund the police, and it's not the same. So that's definitely an issue. So that's why I'm all about. Don't defund the police. Instead, let's make sure that we have an agenda that pushes mental health care for our officers. They need mental health care. That's what they're doing so they can do it well.
But we had this conversation last week.
Yeah.
Yes, they need to defund because, like I said, Brookhaven police officers drive Teslas.
But you're right. In Brookhaven, they drive Teslas. But guess what? People aren't protesting. Brookhaven. Nobody's attacking the Brookhaven Police Department.
They still don't need Teslas.
I agree.
That money can go somewhere else.
They can do the same thing in a Ford.
But right now, everyone is focused on APD, Atlanta Police Department. And what people are not being, what I don't think people realize is that just like for Jamel and I in Atlanta Public Schools, people are not breaking the door down to come work there. People are not saying, I just cannot wait to be an underpaid, overworked police officer for the city of Atlanta. Why would I work in Brookhaven and drive a Tesla when I can work in the city of Atlanta and drive an old beat up Ford? Our police officers in the city of Atlanta are doing really hard work to serve. And at times like this, when they're being consistently attacked every single day for the wrongdoing of a subset of officers, it makes them say, I don't have to do this.
But can
it might be out there can pick up their stuff and go and work in a suburb and have a significantly easier life.
It might be a subset of police officers, but all of them are operating within a system. Okay, so just like there's a system of services that are supposed to be provided by the police, there's a system that protects police officers. The one thing that stuck with me, what Paul Howard said, was this is the first time that people have ever been willing to talk to him about something their partner did wrong. We're talking about in the city where the no-knock warrant was a big thing the first time here, where they like bust into the old lady's house
grandma.
and nobody talked to the DA then. Like they are all part of a system, and the system is the actual issue.
And that's what it means to dismantle the system. But you can't dismantle a system without funding. You can't do the things that need to happen and bring about reforms if you do not have the funding necessary to do it. But and if you're really going to change the police force, you're probably going to need more funds and more money to make it happen.
But why not allocate those funds to individuals or like social workers and mental health workers to work alongside the police officers? Like that, I believe should be happening. It should be
take the money and fund an independent panel of investigators.
I agree with that.
To watch the police. So, but when we say,
I believe that you need to have one. Everything needs like in the school system, Tracy. You have a superintendent and a school board, and they work in conjunction. In the same way, you have a police department that works under a mayor that works with a city council. What happens in the school system, as you know as well, you have psychologists that work in. You have school psychologists. You have school social workers that are employed by the school system. So you have independent people out there who do those things and provide those services, but they need to be brought in under the umbrella of the system in order to really be able to work and answer and meet the needs of the system. So that's why I'm saying defunding isn't the answer. Taking that money and pushing it out to other places, to me, in my opinion, isn't the answer. It is to hire those professionals in the system to work to make that system better. That's what I
believe. So that way it doesn't seem like, there's a gap anywhere between like when it comes to what needs to be done, because when you're doing something, when you're rearranging something, there might be a gap somewhere where something might be missed and it could all be shot to hell. So
but if we defund the police and put those funds in, like I said, for social workers or mental health workers or whatever, and they're working together, that's the same thing.
I think
it's about who has control of the funds and who has control of the work.
But let's be honest, there are some things that need to be defunded in the police department. For example, the over-policing with militarized gear, weapons. I don't mind a SWAT if I'm held up somewhere, somebody has me hostage, but the SWAT does not need military grade materials to come and literally, what I mean?
You didn't have a SWAT. Now, what would Nichols have done?
I didn't say no SWAT.
What would Nichols have done?
The SWAT does not need a tank.
Does the SWAT have a tank?
Yes.
I'm not saying SWAT doesn't have a tank, but I need to research that. So we've got to move on. It was a very big week for the Supreme Court of the United States, ruling on ensuring work protection and legal protections under the 14th Amendment, which has been there since the 14th Amendment for members of the LGBTQIA plus community, as well as today ruling and protecting our immigrants. DACA was upheld from the Obama administration, and the fact that Trump overturned it with an executive order was deemed as illegal for the moment. So a big week for the Supreme Court of the United States of America. What do we think? What do we think about this?
I do think it's a win, but it might be, I'm going to use your word, for the moment. The problem is if he is around
for more
November, that is going to be the true tail of the tape, because it will not hold up after that. So essentially what has happened is America has bought itself some time with DACA to get some people in place that can protect it.
Yep.
Yeah, he's like a bone. He's not gonna let up. Like he's kind of. I want to say he's a reality star. He's petty. So someone tells me he might circle. I mean, unfortunately, not putting this in the air. But if we are to go through that, it would be something circled back to because that's how he is.
This is classic bait and switch, guys. Everything that he's spoken against, all of a sudden, people that was on his team and was speaking against it and signing executive orders, all of a sudden they're for this. For example, the NFL. Last week, he was on Roger Goodell talking about how dare you allow them, if you allow them to kneel at the
Yeah.
And then this week, he said Colin Kaepernick needs to be playing football. Huh?
Well, they see the ship is sinking, right? Like sometimes you can see stuff, the wreck is coming. They can see the ship sinking a mile away. And so they're trying to jump off right now because it is obviously quite honestly, if people vote, right? Like yeah. I am still afraid, but that if it is real because and Zach knows this because we are Facebook friends, but I talked about voter suppression and the different ways that voter suppression occurs. So there's one way, right, to gerrymandering and to change, or the only thing that's legislated more than, there's really nothing that's legislated more than the vote itself, or restricted, I should say, more than the vote. But quite honestly, we have some of our kinfolk and our skin folk who believe that voting isn't going to help.
Nope.
Yeah.
And I just have to always say to people, I hear you, because our vote has been undervalued by both parties. So what is your strategy, right? So once we don't vote, right? You're saying we shouldn't vote. Neither one of them deserve our vote. Okay. So what is the strategy to move us forward? And I would say that the best way to handle it is to vote strategically. There's never going to be a perfect candidate. My grandma used to say, the perfect man has left this earth a long time ago. Okay. So there's not going to be a perfect candidate for you.
Or a vice president.
So explain to us the strategy.
Play Storm.
Mm-hmm.
And go ahead.
It ain't gonna be Beyonce. So explain to us what that strategy looks like, because I hear people say we need to be strategic. We need to be strategic. Well, when we only have two candidates.
So Tracy, what you do is you vote for the candidate that most closely aligns to the agenda that you hold important.
That's what we've been doing.
For the majority of people is Joe Biden. But what we don't do is then hold those people to a high level of public accountability.
Okay. So how do we do that?
As soon as we elect Joe Biden and as soon as he appoints a cabinet, as soon as we regain control of the Senate, what we are going to then do is we're going to look at every single thing they do. We're going to look at every single piece of legislation that's brought forth, and we are going to scrutinize it. We are going to look at it from our own lens, and we're going to ensure that our agenda is prioritized and that it is being pushed. We are not going to allow the Democratic Party to take the black vote for granted again. We have lived that. We have made those mistakes, and we're not going to continue to do it.
Hold on, Zach. I want to take it one step further. So Joe Biden has a published black agenda, right?
That's right.
It has been there for the longest. I really hate uninformed people, but oh well. It's been there for the longest. Mm-hmm. The good thing about Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren not winning is that their ideas will be entertained and used. Watch and see, because he's already moved on some things. So once the agenda is finalized, we parcel it out. Here's your strategy. The part that goes to the education secretary, you say, hey, education secretary, this was in the agenda. We'd also like to add A, B, C. And you harp on those things with the secretary. When you get to HUD, hey, these are the things that were listed under housing and urban development. We would like to add A, B, C. And then you have people who, again, strategically hold people responsible for the pieces of the agenda that are already published and adding those things that we believe will make it better, because it's not perfect. I've seen it's not perfect, but it is there, but it ain't perfect, but it is there. So that would be a strategy to move forward, but he has to get in the office first. The other person,
we can't look away. So I'm going to be honest. When President Obama served our nation, I was nowhere near as invested in the news as I am now, because to me everything was going great.
Yeah,
I had no idea. Like, I think a number of African American, like Black people, I had no idea that there was so much hatred and dissension and anger being directed towards our president, because I wasn't looking on Twitter. I wasn't watching MSNBC. I would read the newspaper. I would watch Diane Sawyer. I watched first it was Peter Jennings and then Diane Sawyer, and that was the full extent of it. I might catch this week with George Stephanopoulos or Christian Amanpour at the time. Maybe. That was it. And so now I know that I have to stay informed, and now I know that I have responsibility to help everyone I know also be informed, and that's how we're going to hold them accountable.
We were younger then too.
We were younger, and we all felt the level of safety. Trey. We did. We all felt the level of safety once he was elected. But the other side of what you're saying is that yes, we're going to hold whosoever wins, hopefully Joe Biden wins. Yes, we'll hold him accountable, but then we have to take ourselves back in the midterms in order to get people in place that will help, because remember how the branches work, right?
Yeah.
The legislators are the people who actually, the Congress, they create the laws. All the president can do is sign them or create an executive order for what he wants. So we have to make sure that he has the support in place for the agenda to move forward.
Is there any way that the 45th president of the United States of America can be re-elected after this book?
Yes,
absolutely. There are hundreds of thousands of people that will be in Tulsa. They have already been camping out. This man has a following unlike.
They're going to be in Tulsa on Saturday, but will they be in Tulsa in 2 weeks? Coronavirus.
Y'all, I think we underestimate his following. I also think we underestimate his Black following. There are a lot of Black people who are out here quiet and voting for this man. And I don't know what it is that
you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you do, friend. Yes, you do, friend.
Tell me what it is, because
I don't want to get too deep here, but it is toxic. They are attracted to toxic masculinity and patriarchy. They are attracted to it. Okay, you have, and if you've ever heard the term Hotep, and I don't mind, I can catch it from the Hoteps because I'm ready for it. Okay, but if you've ever heard that term before, right? You hear people who say cavalier things like, Obama ain't never did nothing for the Black man. Obama wasted all that time in office and he ain't do nothing for us. And so then you have that set of people. Then you have the silk and diamond or diamond and silk grifters of the world who have figured out, I'm not going to say her name because I'm not going to say her name, but I'm not going to say her name because I'm not giving her anything, nothing. But you have people who have figured out how to monetize Blackness as the complete sellout. So I hear you, and they are pulling our vulnerable people right along with them, because again, I don't mind you. People always talk about. I've even seen people post, we're Malcolm's kids. You are not Malcolm's kids, because Malcolm was way too strategic for you. Okay, we are not our ancestors. No, you're not our ancestors, because you don't have that kind of resilience. You are not. So So you just have to be careful when we're talking to people who say those things. Obama didn't do anything. The black man can't be helped by Democrats or Republicans, so we ain't gonna vote at all. You know, black woman is being used by the white man because she all at work and all this. It's so many things that attract people to his cause, and I am telling you, a lot of it is toxic masculinity and just wrong word patriarchy.
So I'm on Monday at 9:00 on my Monday Night Live with Rodney. We're actually going to talk to a young black man who may very well support President Trump. So if you can catch it live, catch it. But if not, watch it. It's going to be
the supporters of Trump are not necessarily Republican.
True. That's exactly what Jared said about the Trumplicans.
Yes.
And it's going to be good to watch it because you guys know me well enough to know how I respond to things and when people say stuff and how I can, for lack of a better word, kirk out. So it's going to be really interesting to see if I can maintain my appropriate composure to where I would be happy with my mother or a future employer watching the recording of me and anyone who's going to talk about voting for Trump. So, but with the book, have you guys been following the news to see and talk about the revelations that John Bolton is bringing to the table about how, President Trump is
about himself
circumventing American democracy?
No, he's actually exploiting it, like running right through it.
What do you mean?
I mean that his entire, we think about who he is as a quote unquote businessman, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of his business has been exploitative. You hear him, people talk about he defaults on loans all the time. He underpays his immigrant workers and then gets on TV and talk about we need to deport everybody, this, that, and a third. He does the same way with America when he's at the table, he's supposed to be negotiating for our better interest. Meanwhile, he out there negotiating for his next election. No, he's never been about anyone except for himself. There's no evidence that supports that he cares about anyone else. Maybe Ivanka.
A number of people I saw posting comments about, well, where was Bolton during the impeachment hearing? But if I'm correct, Bolton was still employed. No, he was working at the time, though, wasn't he? Wasn't he still under the Trump administration?
During the impeachment?
He was fired.
No. He was already gone.
So why wasn't he called to, or why didn't he testify?
Well, I don't believe he would have. I think he is being dishonest now about saying, the Democrats didn't, charge Trump enough. They didn't come with more. They had more to impeach him on. And if he wanted to testify, he could have. He did not want to.
This man has them by the balls. He knows so much about these people. That's why they're not speaking up. Because we have to remember, Trump was never a politician. He was always a businessman. So he was funding these people as they were trying to get their political careers started. So he knows some stuff. That's why they're not saying nothing.
Yeah. And he was trying to hold on to the book deal, right?
Right.
So you don't want to get out there and spill all the tea.
All the beans.
You don't want to tell everything.
I'm glad he testified because I do not think anything could have happened on this planet that would have gotten the Republican senators to vote for impeachment. It wasn't going to happen. I agree with you, Tracy, 100%. I do believe that President Trump has used his resources to gain information on many members of Congress. And he couldn't find something on the members of Congress, like Lindsey Graham, who was a major critic, who all of a sudden became a major supporter. Then we saw the different allegations made on Twitter about #LadyG. I believe that he used those tactics to convince people to go along with his agenda. And I believe if he couldn't find something on the actual Congress member, he found something perhaps on their family members. And he used that against them, I believe, because I don't.
Ted Cruz, the whole Ted Cruz situation.
I don't want to
be ugly. Said his dad.
That these Republican congressmen and women are so corrupt and so unconcerned about the American democracy that unless it was for their livelihood and their family's livelihood or their life, they would side with President Trump. I still believe in the goodness of a number of Republican leaders in this country.
Tracy.
I do. I
don't.
I believe that there are I believe that there are Republicans who have since left the party. And those are the people that you're talking about, Zach. Those people that were once members, true conservatives, right? Like, I tell people, Black people have a streak of conservativeness in us, right? Had it not been for a lot of the racist policies, some of us more of us might be Republican, right? So those people that you are talking about, Zach, those people are no longer in the Republican Party. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Lincoln Project or if you've heard of Rick Wilson, but I love me some Rick Wilson. Like his whole thing is that he would say, I am a master of the dark arts. Now, guess who he was using those dark arts on before he became against Trump?
President Obama.
Democrats, yes.
Attacking Democrats.
Well,
in addition to the big reveal with the Bolton book, we also had this week lots of information coming out about Melania's negotiated prenup. According to sources, supposedly before the Trumps moved to the Oval Office, and Melania was saying she wanted to stay in New York so that baby, what's her little boy name?
Barron.
Baby Barron. Baby Barron it would be too difficult for him to leave his school. That the reality was she was negotiating a much better prenuptial agreement.
Because she was gone.
Get that money, girl. And she was gonna tell it. So
get that money, sis.
What do you guys think about Melania?
Nothing.
I was about to say not a damn thing.
You know what I think of every time I think of her? I think of her that speech she tried to give that one time.
Her plagiarized Michelle Obama speech.
She tried it.
That one time. That's the only thing I ever think about with her is that speech, and I picture her up on that podium just struggling. And then
my mama said, "What is be best?" Her be best. What be best at what? Be best what?
Look, in her mind, she was killing it.
Yes, she thought that was everything, didn't she? She thought that was everything. Hashtag be best. No, girl, be better, because that is horrible.
Because your grammar. Be best at grammatical sentences.
I just keep thinking about all the I'm so glad we have a classy lady in the White House. Now, what have y'all been looking at or watching or paying attention?
She looks cute in a clothes.
Yeah. I've seen the photos that they don't want to acknowledge exist, and that was highly published.
She was a
not cute girl. Every time I look at her, it looked like she's trying to hold in a fart. So I don't know.
She was
this is so bad. This ain't nothing but innuendo stuff I just think because I believe it's true. But I'll be like president or almost president. I think, remember when he first got into office and she had to go in the hospital?
Mm-hmm. She had a breakdown.
I believe she got an eye lift, real talk, because, her eyes, the surgery on her eyes was overdone. I'm not kidding. And so you would see her everywhere in sunglasses after that. I promise you, I believe she had plastic surgery.
Luxury.
That Melania is our president after he leaves the White House.
Wouldn't you?
Yes. I was a friend.
What was that question again?
That was the deal. I'm gonna stay here until it's over.
I would not be with the president and collude in his plan to disrupt the American democracy. So no.
But she doesn't care about America.
She ain't from here. Here's my thing.
Her parents were communists, and she was raised communist. You're right. I mean, yeah.
I couldn't sleep with someone whose soul was like his. He is a deceptive individual. He is. It's just something about deceit. He's like Lucifer.
He is a demon. He is a demon.
You know how Lucifer tricked people by playing this angelic music and got them to follow. He's like that.
Because that's what he's doing. I agree, friend.
Well,
but imagine Melania probably like stays drunk and high most of the time just to deal with it. So,
well, someone who is not like Lucifer is the CEO of Netflix, who is giving over, was it 123 million? How much is he giving?
Oh, I thought it was 120. 123 is good.
Same thing. Same.
He's giving a lot of money to our historically Black college universities, namely Morehouse and Spelman, and as well to the United Negro College Fund to contribute and further fund, the education of Black people who attend, or any, students who attend those schools that are deserving and disadvantaged. My question is, there's also, though, with this phenomenal gift given, has been a lot of backlash from people saying how the money should have been spent or that there are more schools and different things. I wanted to get our panel about this. Let us have it.
I went to the Tennessee State University. We need money. I am just disappointed because it showed his laziness. He did not research schools that really needed funding. Morris Brown is right down the street from Spelman, and they have zero funding. Looks like they got like 40 students. That money could have gone, 25 million could have gone a long way to a school that's struggling like that. That is my problem.
Did your president meet with President Trump? Was your president one of those people at the table? Your president, your school don't get no money, don't deserve no money.
No, here's the thing. I will say this. People not meeting with Trump, that's problematic because we need to know. We need to have ears to the ground.
They can watch MSNBC.
But at the time, to Tracy's point, I think they were trying to give him the benefit of the doubt because Omarosa sold that as an HBCU initiative. I remember that. Okay.
She was an HBCU grad.
Right. So even though the fix was in, I understand what happened there. My issue is with folks who still meeting with him now. And you know what it is. You know what it is.
You're right. I will consent to say yes, I agree with that. But here's the thing, guys. I feel like, you know what, no matter this man deserves no criticism for an altruistic act. He doesn't have to do anything with his money that he doesn't want to do with his money. I do understand that right now, our HBCUs are in critical shape. And here is kind of like the background as to why. I'm a graduate of Mississippi State University. We have a very strong endowment and people contribute and give back to that university at very, very high rates. Mm-hmm. That level of give back to our HBCUs isn't there. And the level of endowments over time isn't there. Mississippi State has money from, the 1800s that, our HBCUs didn't have and don't have to have drawn interest. So the funds and the building up isn't there. So I agree with you. Many of our HBCUs also a lot of them don't have the infrastructure to function in the post-COVID era because they don't have the online capabilities to give instruction, and they're seeing the enrollment drops at very, very high rates. To be honest, if I was a 2020 graduate, I probably would not start school in the fall. I would probably take a year off, have a gap year, because we all know that college is more than just the education, it's the whole experience. I would want the experience. Many kids go to an HBCU for the experience. So these schools need the funding. But at the same time, that's the part and the work of the president and the university to go out there and pursue that funding. A big part of a university president's job is philanthropic. That's what they do.
I agree with you, but I just want to explore the idea because I hear it a lot when they talk about giving back, like how the rate at which people give back. First of all, Black people don't have the same level of employment for the same level of education or better. Even if we were employed similarly, we don't make the same money. I would also like talk like how many women are graduates of college, period, and of HBCUs, but then Black women are paid even less than Black men. So I hear people when they say, I believe, yes, could everybody give back more? Yes, but we're talking about a smaller pool of money from a smaller group of people for a shorter amount of time. And I just want us to consider that when we say like the people don't give back to their HBCUs, okay, maybe, but you have to consider everything, which is why that donation that he made was a big deal. And could have been either spread out or more strategically.
But Tracy, but at the same time, that speaks to the universities and how they branded themselves and how they've ensured that their brand of education has become worldwide synonymous with HBCU.
What are they doing that's any different? They haven't branded themselves any differently.
Morehouse and Spelman have branded themselves.
How? They didn't have to.
Well, here's the thing: they branded themselves by who graduated from the college
and highlighted that.
Yeah, and they
they were blessed with Oprah and Bill early, right?
Exactly.
So
and that's because of their leadership.
But we know that's not. We highlight our celebrities too at our university, and we still do not get the same funding. Here's the issue: those are not the only
your presidents.
They're not the only two HBCUs, though. We have over 200 HBCUs, and those are the only two that people are drawn to. That's a problem.
But also, Tracy, another point of, just being honest.
Oprah went to Tennessee State, and she'd rather give to Morehouse and
But let me also, and to be fair, Tennessee State is still the university system of Tennessee. So Tennessee State is still a state-sponsored school, so they're still getting state funds.
Yeah, but our enrollment is dropping. We have
your president, baby. That's your president's fault. You don't have a good leader.
Okay. I agree. I do agree with that.
In addition to that, I'm going to just be honest with you. When you look at the leaders of the past, those previous leaders at Spelman and Morehouse helped catapult their university to the forefront. This is not an overnight process.
No, Morehouse had Dr. King, and let's keep it real funky. With having Dr. King as a graduate and a lot, that helps tremendously. So let's not as
well as Keisha and Stacey Abrams and a number of other amazing, leaders that have come out. But it is incumbent on the school to sell itself in this 21st century era. So I believe Zach agrees with you, Tracy.
Thank you, Zach.
So
Thomas, I appreciate
it. And now he got another comment for you, Bam. Well, I just said we have, I want you guys to think.
He disagrees with you. You didn't read the entire sentence.
A concluding. So one thing that we're getting ready to wrap up, but one thing that is and somebody texted me and brought out when they were looking at the live, Tracy, they said, you guys don't do the up, the down, the clown, or the things you love anymore. And I'm like, that is an essential part of the 3+1 podcast. So I'm going to go around. And I'm going to let Anaji, you get to pick first. Do you want to give us this week's up? Like something that's really good, that's like a highlight of the week. Or the down, something that's like really bad, like, a downer of the week. The clown, something that's just absolute fool and makes no sense. Typically, unfortunately, Donald Trump has been the clown, has the longest win streak. Or you can tell us about a product that you love and you want to share with our viewers.
Cool. Okay.
Do you want the up, the down, the clown, or the product you love?
I'm going to do the product.
Okay, now we have the product. Jamel, as our political commentator, and this being your very first political commentator podcast with the show, what do you want to take? Up, down, or clown?
I'll take the clown.
You got the clown. Tracy, lady always goes first. You want? I will take the down. So you guys think about that. And then the last topic before we go into the up, the down, the clown is our good friend. Oops.
Oh, Lord.
Aunt Jemima. So Aunt Jemima is no longer going to exist as we know her. This is the original Aunt Jemima branding. I want to know also from our viewers, do you like this pancake mix and this syrup?
Grits.
Did you grow up on it? Did you eat it? Let's talk about it.
Grits.
I didn't eat Aunt Jemima like that. Only thing, I never was a pancake person growing up. I mean, unless it was like ordered out, but cooking them, that wasn't my thing. No, that's too much dedication. And even then, that's like, yeah. So the whole Aunt Jemima thing, like, first of all, I'm not really all that offended by it because it's been here for so long.
Aunt Jemima.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, nah.
It's been here for your whole life, right?
Yeah.
We got
What do you say about Aunt Jemima?
We have been conditioned to believe that this is supposed to be the face of breakfast pancakes.
Master P has done it. Master P has done it.
Yeah, and Uncle Ben is changing too. Someone brought it up. My issue is the original Aunt Jemima. Aunt Jemima now looks nice and sweet and wholesome, but the stereotype in the very beginning was
Black mammy,
heavy mammy, the dark, bright red lips, head scarf, and here's your pancakes, sir. That to me.
Did you eat it growing up though? Did you eat Aunt Jemima's pancakes and syrup growing up? Don't lie.
Grits. And my grandma did pancakes from scratch. We ate her. I have grits in the thing right now.
Okay.
So Aunt Jemima makes a grit. She makes a grit.
No, yes, her grits are better than Jim Dandy and Quakers. But
I didn't know that.
I'm here to let you know.
We only had Quaker grits growing up, and
you're missing out, friend.
I'm gonna be. I can remember the first time that. So this is a weird, I guess, like thing in my life is that in my family we only ate like the same stuff, and so I did not know, and I wasn't exposed enough to know that other things existed. An example: the first time I had strawberry jelly was like this magic moment in my life because we only had nasty Smucker's grape and I hated jelly. I didn't know that there was strawberry. There was a different flavor. I didn't know that you could have a cake that wasn't chocolate for your birthday. So, I mean, I know that sounds crazy, which I hate chocolate cake. I hate Neapolitan ice cream. We had the same stuff over and over. Mm-hmm. We grew up on a syrup that I don't even know if they still make. It's called Blackburn syrup. And that
Blackberry.
What is it called?
Was it Roddenberry's?
No, it was Blackburn. It's Blackburn. It could maybe don't even sell it here. They may only sell in Mississippi. I don't know, but that's what we had. So I remember the first time I saw the Aunt Jemima syrup at like a cousin's house, being like 8 years old, and I was like, "Well," because it's a decorative bottle, and I was like, "Wow, this
beautiful bottle."
Beautiful. So that was the first time that I had it.
Wait, no, that's Miss Butterworth's friend. What is it? Yeah, Miss Butterworth.
Yeah, that's what we had growing up. The point of it is we only had the same stuff. And so I remember asking my mom, well, can we get this type of syrup? And the answer was a definitive and decisive no, we can't. You going to eat Blackburns or you just ain't going to have any syrup. So I say that to say I know that clearly families have been eating this Aunt Jemima.
Yes, they have. And here's my whole thing about this whole movement has been weird, right? Now everybody all of a sudden has been awakened to racial stereotypes and negative stereotypes. And now we want to take all of that down and then do what in 2 months? Like taking it down doesn't strip away its history.
No,
for me,
we take it down while we can.
Yeah, I want them to. But my thing is like, but then how are we going to elevate the Black faith? The Black person, the Black woman. How are we going to? What are we going to do to elevate? So that's my thing. Don't strip it away and don't replace it with something that can elevate us. Is all I'm saying.
Oh, that's good.
Okay,
that's
good. I agree. I think that's a great note and a great final word. I want to now go into the up. Tracy, what is this week's the up?
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
Does the up have to? Everybody has to know what the up is.
No, it can just be. It's your. This is your.
Okay, my guys, I'm so proud of myself. I wrote my agents a very impassioned letter about the lack of representation in their agency, and they were very open to have a really great conversation with me. And now I'm going to be spearheading a lot of conversations with the talent of color across the board on how we can express ourselves more freely, feel more comfortable, and build a safe space. And today they got me this big old bouquet of flowers, just thanking me for really opening their eyes to it. Because a lot of people, y'all, really think, well, I have Black friends. I know I'm nice to Black people, that there's no racism or, bias within their organizations. And that was a really big moment.
Go ahead and call what agency, Tracy? Call them out.
My favorites, Stuart Talent, Atlanta.
We give Stuart Talent a round of applause because they are stepping up to the plate and they're really representing their diverse audience and recognizing it's something they need to work on. And that's not something that, many people are doing authentically. They're claiming that they're doing it. They're changing messaging like Aunt Jemima, but are you really Are you really making the difference? Same thing goes with Starbucks, and why I'm never drinking Starbucks again. You had an incident in Philadelphia where you had two men who you kicked out and had arrested, put them in the system. You claimed you underwent diversity training, but yet when it was time for your employees to wear Black Lives Matter pins, you forbid them from doing it. Yet you wear every other kind of pin in the Starbucks store when you work there. So that, to me, you have now shown me who you are, and you're not fit for my Black dollar. So Tracy, shout out for bringing to the table with the agency. From the up, we now go to, unfortunately, the down. And this down goes to the minister, the pastor, the lead pastor of Atlanta's Passion City Church. Jamel, we both love and adore Passion City for their philanthropy and all the great things they've done for the children of Atlanta. But this week in an interview, the pastor.
Was that him?
It was him. Yes, ma'am.
That was the guy who was okay?
Yes, his name is Lou Giangio, or I can't say it. You will Google it. What he said was that we have to, instead of saying white privilege, it's really a white blessing that God gave to white people. I know what he meant. What he was trying to say was because we are blessed to be white, maybe something to that effect.
It still sounds
a responsibility to help Black people and other people. Regardless of what he wanted it to be, it was absolutely one of the worst things that I've heard said in the whole entire the whole entire Black Lives Matter movement.
What did he say again?
He said that it's not white privilege, it's white blessing.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Change it to what?
You know what? People feel this way. Just like the young lady from Seattle or somewhere in Oregon somewhere that said, we gave you freedom. We gave you this. People really
not that you took it away. Not that you took it away.
We gave you emancipation. Oh, I had somebody tell me we gave you Obama. Isn't that enough?
Right. And this is Pastor Louis Giglio. Louis Giglio. Yeah. This is exactly, I'm trying to find this is what he said. We understand the curse that was slavery. White people do. And we say that was bad, but we miss the blessing of slavery, that it actually built up the framework for the world that white people live in.
Slavery.
It's a bad theology. He said that, we should instead of saying white privilege, turn it into the term white blessing, a term that refers to the advantages white people enjoy in a racist society. And it could be equated to a gift from God. That is the exact quote that he stated and what he said. And as he said it, then Kathy was in the audience applauding.
Who is Kathy?
Yet and still, just today on Facebook, somebody came at me about the number of Black franchisee owners at Chick-fil-A and how dare you boycott Chick-fil-A. I am not going to drink that racist coffee at Starbucks, burnt as it is. I'm not going to eat that racist chicken at Chick-fil-A, as tasty as it is. And I'm not going to be able to continue to support homophobia and bigotry in any form. So I'm not going to be able to do it. All of that is the down of the week. So with the up and the down, Jamel, what is this clown?
So I hate to, in a way, it's about the guy who is the current resident of 1600, but Black Lives Matter Boulevard or wherever he lives now. But
he lives on Black Lives Matter Boulevard, baby.
But the notion that no one knew about Juneteenth until he had something to say.
The clown.
Makes you a straight clown.
What? He said what? He's bringing Juneteenth to the enlightenment of the people. What?
Yeah.
I literally listen.
I got to go.
I literally was like, first of all, we know two things in the Black community. We know two things. People get it confused. I hear some people get it confused. There's Juneteenth and it's Emancipation Day. My grandma, Emancipation Sunday is what? January 1st, because you go to church at night, and then the next day is the celebration of January 1st, which was the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation. So we know two things. We know Emancipation Day and we know Juneteenth. Right. Donald Trump, you are a great clown thinking that you have schooled all of us on Juneteenth as if we had no clue. And for anybody else who says, I didn't know what Juneteenth, shame on you, clown, if you did not know what it was.
I agree 100%. Anaji, what is the product that you love that you want to share with all of our viewers on the live cast?
Well, I'm glad you asked. It's our comics on www.concretecomics.com. Since tomorrow is Juneteenth, we are actually releasing a free preview of a new book called AIDS. Not AIDS, it's called Ads. And it's pretty much like Black Confederacy, where it's a lore, like a mythology type of story, where it's about a spirit that kind of fights in the shadows of freeing slaves. It's like a spin on it. And I don't want to say too much because my partner is the one who created it, but we have other like free shorts on the website as well, so you can download a bunch of those as well.
So they can get free access to the comics and then pay for the book all on tomorrow, Juneteenth. We're gonna be there. Check it out. We're gonna.
What's the website again?
Yes, it's www.concretecomics. That's KONKRET comics. COMICS.com.
I'm going to put a comment on our comment thread, so it'll be there as well. And anyone at any time, whoever goes back and watches this live cast can see it. Thank you guys so much for coming and joining us.
It was so nice to meet everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Every Thursday at 9, we'll be here. You can always catch up. And let me just give you a really brief, what do you do with a live cast? It's great when you can watch it live and you can come in and you can join in. And we know that sometimes you can't do that. It's just like a podcast. If you want to play it in your car while you're driving somewhere and then watch it, that's why it's on Facebook Live, but it's also on YouTube Live. You can watch these episodes anytime that you want to. And share, and comment. We appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. Thank you for joining.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.